Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us back again this afternoon for our series of webinar. This is speaking and writing webinar that we're covering. This is session 4. This is for secondary level teachers. We covered session 3 this morning, so now we're going to cover session 4. And hope you're joining us back again. Welcome to the new people who have joined us. We're going to be covering the first semester course books, Mega Goal 1, Mega Goal 3, and Mega Goal 5. So just making sure you're in the right session. This is a secondary teacher session that we're going to cover. Moving on to your moderators, you know the drill. That's me, Minerva, Nikos, Medini, and Nasir. We are in the background to make sure you are, if you have any problems, any questions, let us know. If you face any trouble during the webinar, just let us know. Also, just checking, I forgot to do this again. If you can hear my voice, we sorted on the audio. If anyone needs any help, one of the moderators can drop the link how you can connect to the audio. So there's also a hand icon on the right side of your screen, if you just below your name. If you can click on the hand icon, if you can hear my voice. Sound is clear. Yes, we can hear. Lots of hands up, so great. Also, moving over to Danai now, who's very well versed, you must be now, teacher educator, author, also successfully delivered several training workshops and has co-authored the Saudi edition. Thank you, Danai, for joining us.
Thank you, Saresh.
Danai usually has a handout that she refers to, so I'm going to drop the link to the handout in the chat box. Please make sure you can download this now. There are two. If you click on the link, there are 2 documents, and you should be able to download both these documents for today. She might be referring to it, might not. Also, some people ask for previous handouts, so this is the link for handout 1. Session 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 4 is the number we're covering today. We have our last session, that is tomorrow. And moving on to some housekeeping really quickly, you will have to connect to the audio once you're in the webinar, so make sure you do that. Once you're in the webinar, you will have to connect to the audio, and just make sure you can hear. If you face any connectivity issues with the audio, you can use the call-in function. But we also recommend you close down any high networking apps such as Netflix, YouTube, gaming platforms, because this is going to affect the bandwidth of your webinar. And you will be receiving the certificate of participation. Lots of questions about that. But yes, please wait for the certificate for next week, because we'll have to sort it out in terms of people have joined using their colleagues link. This is going to have obviously your colleague link on the certificate. So we're just trying to make sure we sort that out. Not sure how we're going to do that, but we are trying our best, because if you're using your colleague's link to join the webinar, then it's going to have your colleague's certificate on it. Again, just how you can connect the audio, so make sure you do that. We cover Q&A in the end, so if you want to stay back, please do. If you want to go and you have lunch or prayer or you have a class, you can log off. That's fine. Don't worry about this. If you missed the session today, someone has just said, I'm afraid there's not much that we can do about this. And then, what was I saying? Your mic is closed. I don't think my mic is closed. You will have to connect to the audio to hear me. And the last thing I have is you've got the Q&A on the right side, you've got the chat box on the right side. Just make sure you use them correctly, because the chat is for like the presenter. If you want to interact with the presenter, you have any comments for the presenter, then I usually read the chat box. So make sure that you're able to read that. And also the Q&A box that's on the right side. So you can drop any questions in the Q&A box if you have any, and our moderators will be here to help you out. Thank you, Ali. The person meant that his or her mic is closed. Okay, very good point. So moving on the FAQs, you must have noticed you are muted and you will not be able to unmute yourself. So the mic is closed. Yes, that's correct. Because we have 1,000 people, we cannot have everyone open their mics and talk at once, because then we'll have to say bye to Danai. But you also must have noticed you are the only one in the webinar. That's not true. We have 722, 24. It's coming up, the number, in the webinar right now, because for privacy and GDPR purpose, you can only see yourself in the webinar on the right side. Don't worry, you're not in a hidden list. You're not the only one attending. There are several people, and I see the number going up, 727. So don't worry, you're not the only one. And also, you are automatically marked present. So you do not need to log in anywhere. You don't have an attendance that you have to log in. We kind of know when you log in and log out, it's all automatic. So don't worry about marking your attendance. Once you get into the webinar, you are marked attendant. So, and we know what time you log in, what time you log off. So don't worry about marking yourself. Just repeating this again. You will be unable, like I said, if you're seeing only yourself in the webinar, then that is because of GDPR, and that is the same reason you will not be able to see other chats. So when your colleagues and your people are in the webinar, you will not be able to see their comments in the chat box. So it's not because it's hidden. The chat box is enabled for all the participants. So you're able to chat with the presenter. That's not something that's not possible. However, the only difference is that you cannot see the comments from other presenters. Yes, I can just see my chat. That's correct. But Danai usually reads out these chats for you, so you know what's going on. So she's going to read the comments that are going to come in, so you know you can follow along, because we know you're not able to see those comments that are coming in the chat box. And the last thing from me is just a different link for each session. So the link tomorrow for 10 a.m. is a 10 a.m. link for November the 19th. The link today is not going to work for tomorrow. I'm afraid we have already reached 1,000 registrations for tomorrow. So if you're trying to register for the webinar tomorrow, you might get an email to say that the event capacity is full, which is why we won't be able to register any more participants. However, the 1,000 people who have registered have already secured a seat. So they just need to make sure they use their login details to log in the webinar. They must have received a confirmation email once they registered. It's the same link in the email that they need to use to join the webinar, like you have successfully, like 747 people have successfully done that today. But then just make sure you use the correct link, the correct time. If you're using the 1 p.m. link for a 10 a.m. webinar, that's not going to work. Just make sure the date and the time of the webinar is correct. That's all I ask. Sash, I think I've memorized your words more than Danai's. I'm sorry, that made me laugh so much. But yeah, just a different link for every session. Just make sure that there's a different link. We just want to help you out, which is why I keep repeating the same thing, because a lot of queries come in again. And we just want to make sure we support you and make sure you are able to log in successfully and you don't miss any of the sessions that Danai is running. That would be a shame. I will stop talking at this point now and pass over to Danai. Over to you, Danai. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Suresh. Okay. Hello again, everyone. Okay, we'll carry on as best we can. What I'd like to do is remind you that we're trying to cover huge areas in learning and methodology and all that. So obviously we can't exhaust anything. I am just trying to focus on some things that I think are important, just to give you a start. And what I'd like to remind you of is, please, your teacher's guide, read it, use it. Okay? Right. Well, in the last session, we discussed listening and reading, whatever we were able to discuss in the time we had. Those are receptive skills, right? They're receptive, not passive, receptive, because our minds are active, very active, when we're trying to listen and understand or read and understand. And that is our primary concern, right? Okay, now speaking. Speaking during the lesson, can we consider some points? Teacher speaking time versus student speaking time. We've already sort of touched upon that. And some of you did mention that the teacher tends to speak most of the time in the lesson. Yes, you will if you're doing grammar translation and explaining things. Again, I remind you that we're supposed to be helping learners learn this language in order to use it, okay, as a global medium, in order to communicate online, face-to-face, through speech, through writing, for studies, for work, for a number of different things. And as you're addressing young adults who are already thinking about the future, that's an important point to bear in mind. How can we optimize the time? Yes, you must be a guide, a facilitator, always. Okay, how can we optimize the time, speaking time for students? Once again, I know I'm repeating myself. Try and collaborate, okay? Try and go for collaborative learning. Get people to work together as much as possible, even when they're doing exercises, when they're doing things that are not very creative. Get them to help each other, compare answers and so on. Role play, yes, you will definitely need more than one person, 2, 3, depending on the roles you have. Absolutely, I agree. Speaking is important in every lesson. There is speaking all the way through, especially if you more or less follow the instructions in your teacher's guide, okay? Now, speaking beyond the lesson, again, that was something, yes, but a strong person with a weaker person, learner, so that they can help. Do you know, I mean, some people say, because it's traditional, some people say that that's not fair because the learner who is strong is kind of held back. That's not true at all. You must know from experience, I mean, we all know from experience that when you try to teach someone else, when you try to help someone else, that helps you learn a lot of things. It helps you put things in order in your mind. It helps you clarify things, and you find out what works and what doesn't work. So it's the best way to get people to collaborate. In other words, do try and mix groups. Don't make it competitive. We don't test in the lesson. We try to help them learn in the lesson, okay? And when we do any form of assessment, it's formative. It's for us to know what they can do, what they can't do, but first of all, what they can do. Yes, I know they want marks to pass the exams, but they don't only want that. And anyway, you can prepare them for the exam by doing specifically things that they need for the exam. Separate the kind of tasks and activities you do. But the most important thing is for them to learn, and then they will be able to do better in the exam. But if everything you do is regulated, is connected to the exam, they're not going to be able to learn how to learn and how to use the language, how to understand, okay? None of that is going to happen. But find out from them to what extent they speak the language or they use the language outside of class, especially at this age group, and taking into consideration access to the web, access to the internet, you will find that most of your students, barring the people who haven't got the devices or haven't got the connection, most of your students of this age watch films, play games, they play interactive games, they communicate with other people, they chat, they do all sorts of things. You need to find out. Because quite often it turns out that there are students who are quite fluent in the language because of the language they've picked up through the things they have learned. Yeah, okay. Speaking outside the classroom actually happens quite a lot in Saudi, as far as I can tell. At least, I mean, I haven't been back for a few years, but the last time I was there, I could hear people speaking English in malls, for example. They weren't speaking Arabic, they were speaking English to each other. Find out, because quite often this is why then you can't get them interested, because you're doing things, you're doing things that don't basically address their needs, what they know. It's important to find out what they know. Okay, so they write, chat when they communicate with people online. Do you think that, I'm just rushing through the questions, I'm sorry, that has an effect on their learning and using the L2? Okay, you must have experienced this. You do have learners who have picked up quite a lot through all kinds of services, apps, social media, whatever, you name it. Yes, they just need encouragement. Yes, okay. Why don't they, yes, they chat a lot through video games. I agree with you. And they really learn how to communicate through video games. And most of them, okay, I'm not saying that everybody should watch movies, but what I'm saying is find out what they do beyond the classroom, so you know what you're dealing with. Do your students, given a choice, do your students prefer to speak or to write in English? Speak. You say, right, both. Speak. So we have a mix. Okay, most of you have answered speak, actually, so far. Some of them hate writing, yes. Okay, some of them hate writing because they see it as a test, because they haven't thought about the process of writing. And from that point of view, I think it is very important that you do have a look at your teacher's guide. I'll explain why in a minute, for both speaking and writing, actually. Which features of spoken language are they aware of? They have spelling phobia, okay. More like the majority hate writing, yes, understood. Most of them speak, but some like chatting in English, but not in class. Because you don't allow them to sort of utilize what they know. Okay. Yes, relate what they know outside of class to what they're doing in class. Absolutely. If you're preparing them for university, there are schools that are preparing them for universities. Are you saying that the English language centers? Yes, but I mean, you teach them for years. They do all this work at school. It doesn't have to go against what they're using. Okay. Okay, they're aware of body language, but yes, so that's difficult to use all the time, especially online. Okay, so they are aware of body language. You have a problem. You have a problem with what? I can't. Okay. This is because each teacher has a different way of dealing with things. Yes. Okay. I know this is not, it's not a perfect solution, but this is exactly why everybody has to use the teacher's guide, so that at least they share some of the main aims, the goals, okay, and way of working. Are they more confident in understanding connected speech, or are they more confident in speaking? Okay, depends on individual differences. They're more confident in speaking. Okay, just to remind you, one of the things that we touched upon in the last session was difficulty in speaking. They give up, they sometimes don't try at all. One, because you ask them to listen to things without preparation, without sort of preparing them for what they listen and activating relevant knowledge or association. And also because if you have been doing more work through written language, through written discourse, they expect to see boundaries between words. And there are no boundaries between words in spoken English. It's connected speech. So this is why the universal complaint is that speakers speak too fast. Speakers don't speak, some speakers, yes, might. Okay. Study writing and grammar. Okay, spoken language is much easier to learn, especially from film. Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. So, should learners be allowed to make mistakes when they speak? Yes. Okay. Should they be encouraged to think as they speak and self-evaluate, correct, rephrase, etc.? Yes, crucial. Yes, you shouldn't sort of create the impression that they have to speak in perfect sentences. We said they don't have to form complete sentences. There are all kinds of features, like the ones we have mentioned: starting, stopping, rephrasing, monitoring your addressee, the person or the people that you're addressing, to find out if they're following, if they understand, rephrasing things, and so on. Okay, so how about these features in speaking? Grammatical accuracy. No, it's not a primary feature to the extent that other things are, and not to the extent it's not as important as it is in written discourse. Okay? Yes, in writing it is important. Appropriacy is important, okay? Appropriacy is important, and it is totally dependent on the context. I remind you again, the context involves who is talking to whom, what their relationship are, what the purpose of the conversation are, where they are, okay? What they're trying to convey, and so on, and all of that is the context. Okay, message, communication, reduction strategies, yes, fine. Context, yes. Okay, you're looking at this. Context of communication is the most important thing. And conveying the message, communicating the message, yes. Monitoring, making sure the person that you're communicating with is basically can understand what you're saying, or if you think they need clarification, clarify, and so on. Yes, we're talking about speaker listeners. Okay, self-monitoring. Okay, you watch your audience. Okay, I try to self-monitor, but your comments are coming very fast. I try to self-monitor as I go through things, although I have prepared, but I try to self-monitor so I can adjust what I want to tell you, what I want us to discuss, so that I can address it closer to your expectations as much as possible. Now, remind you again, we have very little time. We have 1 hour to cover huge ground here. So I'm just trying to highlight some things. And do you have to follow the order of the lessons in the unit? Not necessarily. Okay. Why do you feel that your students need time to think before they speak? Why or why not? Yes. Yeah, it's different when you're talking about spontaneous response. Okay, something about, sorry, I didn't catch the last one, the last comment. Okay, you're really coming quite fast. Okay, to compose. Okay, yes, so you can give them different things, but they need to prepare a little bit, okay, even for a few minutes. This is why, again, I'm going to talk about collaborative learning. Put the things, use your screen if you're working online, put up the points that you want them to think about, or the picture that you want them to think about and brainstorm, or the problem that they have to discuss. Yes, it depends on the topic. And give them just a few minutes to start thinking. Don't ask, have you finished? Because there'll be many people who will say, no, we haven't finished. The point is not for them to finish thinking about all the points or to answer the points in complete sentences. Okay? The point is for them to start thinking something about the mother tongue. It doesn't matter. Remind you again, when we think, no, but they don't have to think in sentences. What I'm talking about when I say think is think about what they know about the subject, think about ideas, whatever they associate with it, okay? Thinking does not necessarily require a language. We don't necessarily think in words or sentences. We might think in images. When you remember something, okay, don't you have an image flashing in your mind? No, but you see, not if you're working. The first speaker will be the first winner. You mean will always win? No, but you don't have to get first, second, third. If you're working in a collaborative way, then you're giving everybody a chance to speak. We're going to be talking about different forms of interaction tomorrow again. But there is a lot of, processing going on in their minds, okay? And about writing, can you sort of think of which of these features are important in your view for writing? We're talking about productive skills, yeah? Dictation, yeah? Is dictation writing or listening? We use it as listening, yeah? Planning, yes. Spelling is part of it, but think of spell checks. Drafting, writing, the context, cohesion, clarity, information, so paragraphing. Okay, fine, good. Okay, carrying on. Thinking, drafting, absolutely. all of those things. Now, when we ask people, yes, grammatical accuracy is important in written discourse. Okay, different types of text. Yes, absolutely. In the writing section in your courses, you've got different genres, okay? You have different genres in reading as well, come to think of it, but it's different types, different text types that they have to produce, okay? Now, again, with writing, you need to consider topic. Yeah, very much so. Brainstorming in class, in groups, in pairs, making notes of things, okay? You don't want everybody to write the same thing, but if you let them, they won't. They won't. I try to avoid the word composition with students because they hate it. The minute they hear composition, I lose them. Okay, just if it's, for example, writing a description, then it's like, you know, we're going to write a description. If it's an email, then it's an email, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if could I, yeah, I can share, okay. All right, I'd like to share screen and refer to one of your handouts, actually. On writing. Okay, whoops.
Are you sharing your screen, Tanai?
Sorry?
Are you sharing your screen?
Yeah, it's not, I'm trying to share one of my screens, but it's not doing it. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I can see now.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Tanai is starting to share content. It's still loading.
Oh. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it now, but it's a blank screen at the moment.
Okay, fine. So it won't do it. Unfortunately, this doesn't always work. So I'll go back. Can we go back? No, I
You
can't
can
find
stop
it.
sharing and it will go back.
Sorry?
You can stop sharing. Like
Yeah, but gosh. Help, there is.
Okay, let me.
Sorry.
No worries.
It's doing funny things again.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
I really don't want us to lose the connection. Okay. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can find the handout that's on writing. Can you find it? Yes. Okay, for session 4. I believe it's handout 2. Session 4, yes. Yes, good. Okay. Again, I mean, there are a number of things for you to think about as a think sheet right from the beginning. What I would like for you to focus on is this, the writing process. Okay? Yes? Technical problems? Well, there are problems in the classroom, so I don't think, you know. What? Wow. Okay, fine. Great. Thank you, Suresh.
No problem.
Okay, I'm trying to scroll. Oh, okay. Hmm. No. Okay, never mind. Never mind. It's not going to work. For some reason, this platform, I know this platform doesn't like me at all, and I don't like it. So there. Okay. Now, the writing process. The first thing is identify the audience, okay? The purpose of the text. In other words, we go back to context. We don't write in a void. We're supposed to write for somebody to read. We might know the specific person that is going to read it, or we might know the people who are going to read it, but we address it to somebody. So unless we do that, it's very difficult to write. It's like, this is why I avoid composition, as I said before, because composition traditionally did not include the context of writing, who the thing was addressed to. You decide on a style, layout, format. This is given through a model in your text that you go through and identify. You help the students see how it's organized, what is it in each paragraph, and so on and so forth. Gather ideas from research, reading similar texts, own experience, knowledge. This is all about the brainstorming that you've been talking about. But when the brainstorming is going to then be used either to compare things in listening and reading, or to use ideas to produce something, make sure they make notes. Make sure they make notes. I wouldn't ask them to say sentences. No, I would ask them to concentrate on ideas first, on what they want to talk about, and definitely teach them to make notes. Just write the key words, not complete sentences. There are two reasons for that. One, it's faster, and it's not going to slow down the brainstorming, which you don't want to slow down. We agreed that your time is quite restricted. Secondly, if you ask them to write sentences and they report it in class, and you want them to speak in case of brainstorming and speaking, they're not going to speak, they're going to read their sentences aloud. So we need to be very clear about our aims. So get them to make notes, select relevant ideas, plan organization, and write a first draft. Yes, I know. You have been mentioning first draft. Okay, review the first draft. This you can get them to do among themselves. In other words, have the students exchange. You give them guidelines, what to look at, read each other's work, comment, make corrections, okay, hand it back, rewrite the text, send the text to readers and so on. You can have multiple drafts if you want. So one possibility is, for example, you work through this with the students online or in class, you get to the first draft, and then you ask them to exchange outside the classroom, but you give them guidelines, what to look for. The what to look for, you will be able to choose from the goals, the aims that are given in your teacher's guide so that you can vary each time. For example, the conventions that you have to take into consideration with each particular task type are also usually highlighted in the writing corner. This is what the writing corner is for. Now, you can't teach them everything all the time. Yes, ask them to search, to research. You can flip it. In other words, get started in class, go through the model to get them to notice how things are organized, what information is key, okay, and then ask them to go off and find more information to share among themselves. You can flip a lot of the stages here. Are you there? Have I lost you? Hello? No one's there.
You're fine. Dana, you're okay. Go on.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Okay. Glad to know you're there. Okay. All right. So, have a quick look. Unfortunately, as you witnessed before, I can't share my other screen. I was hoping I'd be able to, because yesterday, wow, miraculously, I was able to share my screen, but not this time. Okay, but if you look at this, yeah, can you see the instructions in your teacher's guide? And there are additional activities, and there are teaching tips, okay? And there is additional information if you need information on some occasions. For example, with the unit on the films that we saw briefly in the previous session, and other, Alma can share from the, okay. We've seen briefly before, you get a whole list of different sort of people involved in films and practical information to help you if you haven't got the time to search. However, when you're doing writing, yes, teach your learners to research. They like researching, okay? Because it's something that they do all the time on the web. So we need to really get to know what they can do, not only in English, what they can actually do, what they know about, what they're interested in, and then adapt things accordingly. Okay. Switching to speaking. Our controlled activities such as repetition, completion. Yes, they can write amazing reports about film. Okay. Speaking activities are controlled activities such as repetition, completion, etc. Speaking activities, yes, they are. They're controlled, however, and they serve a different purpose. They serve the purpose of practicing particular language. I know some of you were not here yesterday, but yesterday you were given a handout. No, they don't create the content of these activities. Exactly, they're controlled. But you had a handout that had notes about how you can develop from control to less control to semi-controlled activities and so on. That concerns basically mostly lessons where you are focusing on language, okay? So in the listen and discuss and so on. But again, you're having skills integrated throughout. Should we try to progress from more to less controlled activities? Yes. Sometimes the mistake that we make is we rush through because we feel the time pressure, and we rush through and ask students to be creative and come up with things with almost no time to think, okay, and with inadequate preparation. And that's when we lose a lot of them and they give up, and this is where you start thinking about weak strong, which we shouldn't do. Okay, let's try to think about more or less confidence. I know, but we need to control time. If I stopped and thought, and I know I'm not doing a perfect job, none of us is, but if I stop to think about the area that I'm trying, the areas that I'm trying to deal with, to sort of, highlight things for you to help, I would have to stop now and say impossible, bye-bye. But I'm not going to do it. About controlled, less controlled. Okay, I'll explain. For example, if you're drilling them, it is substitution. It is highly controlled, isn't it? If you give them specific words to use in sentences to use in the past, okay, just to practice the past form, because you're telling them what to say, That's controlled, but not as controlled as repetition. If you prompt through pictures, you show them the pictures and they come up with the sentences, then that is semi-controlled, yeah, because you're not controlling the language they are using, so it's a little more demanding for them. If, however, you say, okay, think about what you did yesterday evening, make a note of at least 4 things that you did, then turn to your partner and find out if they did the same thing. That's open-ended. That's not controlled. So if there hasn't been enough preparation, practice before you ask the students to personalize and do a more open-ended activity, then you're going to get the usual few, more competitive, more confident, monopolizing everything, and your impression will be that the rest of your students can't even practice, can't speak, can't do things, don't have any ideas, which of course is not right. Okay. Notice that the skills are usually integrated throughout the lessons in each unit. Learners are expected to practice new language through speaking, for example. Encourage learners to use audio at home, watch videos if allowed, to increase their exposure to the language in context. Okay? That's the speaking again. Identify examples that provide opportunities for skills integration in your course book. I was hoping to share my screen to do that, but obviously that's not going to be possible. But let's have a look at this. This is writing, yeah? Can you tell me where there might be speaking? Here it says, yes, I know this is about a book review. As I said, you get different genres, different task types throughout your writing syllabus, which is very important because it's not just, written language is not like spoken language on paper, yeah? Yes, task 1, the writing. Consider the questions below and discuss with the partner. So what skill are they going to use here? Speaking. Yes, absolutely. Speaking. But how do you set up the activity? You get them to read the questions silently. Then make sure they understand what they have to do. You can do it 2 questions at a time or 1 question at a time. Please be patient with me. Let me go through this. I'm really talking about setting up activities which can be the make or break of a lesson. Ask them to have a look at A, 1, 2, 3, for example. Okay? Just for a minute. Don't ask, have you finished? They don't have to all finish. All you want is active mind. Okay? Elicit possible answers from them. Make sure everybody understands what they need to do. It's more than a warm-up. It's the basis for writing. It's the basis for your activity. Read the review below, it says, and find out the following. Okay, and you have points, questions to answer. So this, you tell them to read the questions silently. Okay? Fine. Don't rush them. This is not going to take more than half a minute for them at this level. Then let them read this silently in order to be able to answer what they need to answer here. Okay? And then the questions get more specific about language. Which tenses, verb forms are used more? Could they be different? This again has to do with the genre. It has to do with the text type. Okay? Are there any passive forms? Why? Why not? Are there any paragraphs? Why? Why not? And you can even ask about more features, or have a look at your teacher's book, get more ideas there. Okay, and let's carry on. Okay. All right. Yes, it is Moby Dick. If you don't think that's going to be very successful, you can adapt this, can't you? You can adapt it to suit another book that you think is more relevant for them, or that they're more familiar with. But then that means you would have to rewrite things. So if you can't do that, just use it as is. Okay. Then think of a book you have recently read. Make some notes in the chart below. Title of a book. Author. Fiction, non-fiction, what the genre is. Information about the characters. Setting, plot. Comparison and contrast. This book versus other books. Would you recommend it? Who would read the book? Who would like it and why? So they can choose their own title. Now, if you want them to help each other, get pairs or groups to agree on a title and help each other discuss this and make notes. Okay? Now, use the organizer here to outline the major 3 key events of the plot, but not give away. Yes, you've used Alice in Alice in Wonderland. Yes, of course. Okay. First, second, third event. Write your book review. Okay. Now, in the writing corner, when you write the book review, think about who will read it. Begin with the title and so on and so forth. Summarize the main characters. So the book review, okay, this would need maybe, no. This is an hour's work. This is one lesson for me. Especially if they have been, doesn't matter, you're not doing a test if they get the answers. You don't want to test them on what they answer. If they have looked up the answers, in this instance, yes, good, you showed the review of a film. Yes, of course. If they did this, they looked up, it doesn't matter, and if they remember them, good. Okay? Yes, but, it's not a perfect world. What can we do? The ones who know them will have to tell the others. So again, you get something, so they have to speak. But if you talk to them constantly, regardless of your goals, if you constantly interact with them as teacher class, and there is no collaborative work, and you feel that you're testing all the time, then nothing will happen. Okay? And no, it's not easy. It's not easy come, easy go. If it's not get them to think and find out how much they can do. I insist they can do a lot more. I'm not claiming to have taught your students, but I have taught demo lessons to Saudi students, and quite honestly, they can do quite a lot if you let them. So we're not there to lecture. We're not there to show people how much we know and what we can do. We're there to help them do things through this language. Okay? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking grammar. I've lost it now. I can't do this. No? Sorry, just trying to go back. Okay. You're thinking grammar. Again, we don't have the same goal in all the lessons in the course. Some of the lessons focus on new language, okay? You want to call it grammar, you want to call it functions in the conversation, fine. Some of them focus on both the information, the content, and the language. Some focus on receptive skills, listening, speaking, and so on, and listening, reading. Some focus on speaking, writing. There are many sections that require speaking. How do you control your time? I'm sorry, through writing, through planning. Planning. You need to plan your lesson and try to figure out how much time you want to spend on each thing. But you will have no time to raise learner awareness, make them notice features in writing, okay? Learn how to produce the type of text you want them to produce. And most of all, learn to notice things and identify things. This is not an advanced skill. No, it's how we teach writing right from the start. In fact, we do it very early on with elementary classes. If they have to write a simple email to somebody, we give them a context and they have to write the email, and we show them how to address the person, how to begin, how to finish, and so on. Should we write together on a whiteboard? Do you mean the students? Should the students write together on a whiteboard? You could, if you wanted to, but what I prefer to do, and please remember what I said, you can, provided you do all the thinking and the noticing and the training in class, you can assign the writing of a draft, for example, for homework. And when you come back next time, go through it in less time, exchange, give back to complete and hand in the following. There is flexibility. You can deal with this in a flexible manner, but you need to plan. Okay, fine, if you use a whiteboard and they get excited. Let me also suggest something else that works very nicely, and I think some of you probably do it, especially people who have attended sort of sessions in the past. When they finally write, it's not creative writing per se. We're training them to write certain types of text, and in doing that, we're training them to notice the features of different types of text so they can get on to the more advanced work that they need to get on when they go to college. We don't get into that, particularly at this point. Okay, but this is the principle. Yes, fine. Yes, this is exactly what I was saying before. If you assign the writing, to be looked at and edited by each other in the next lesson, following lesson, and so on. Yes, but it is important to for them to notice how things differ. Not all writing is composition. Okay? It doesn't work that way. Through notes or chart, yes. Okay, these are simpler notes and charts that you've got. I don't even remember what my last statement was. I'm supposed to repeat it. Okay, let me just say this before I forget it. Reading the newspaper helps them to express more. Any exposure they have to the language will help them more. We help them to write texts. I don't mean to write the letters. Okay. When they finish with their writing, with the text, what I prefer to do is to post them, if they're electronic, okay, create a sort of like a board to post them on, like a private blog with your students, post them on the blog, and everybody has a look and chooses the ones that they think are work better, the ones that they like and why they like them, or they can write little reviews about the text themselves. If you are in the classroom, what we do is we post them on the wall or on the board, and they get up and read them, sometimes during the break, actually. No, it doesn't matter if they type or write. Quite honestly, I think, we're all prepared for the time when everybody will be typing. Well, which I know will be a great shame for handwriting and calligraphy and all that, but, this is the way it seems to be developing. Low-level students, okay, less confident students. Yes, you can encourage them, accept all their writing and encourage them, but get peer editing. Get them to work in groups and pairs as much as possible, please. If you think their handwriting is important for them or for any reason at all, then ask them to handwrite, okay? Work in pairs, thank you. Work in pairs, work in groups if you want to make the most of the time you have, okay? Now, there's another example for you, okay? From 5. There is connection, isn't there? Or what kind of TV films do you enjoy? Why? Okay? This will be speaking, yes. They will then listen to each other. Accuracy versus length and ideas. Yes, it's not only length and ideas, however, it's content. The reason we want them to think, the reason we want them to research, get the points that they want to use to talk about, put them in some kind of form. This is supposed to help them work. Yeah, it's a mind map. So TV, film genre and title, okay? They put here and then put the notes around, and then they organize their text and write it using features from here. The right-hand corner will give them conventions, okay? So basically what we're doing is we're getting them to notice things in the model text, look at the writing conventions, look at the content. Yeah, okay, you make an outline. Yes, fine, but sometimes it's not easy to make an outline. So you can still highlight the main features of that genre, of that particular type of text, okay? So we have genre many times here because we're talking about main film genres, but there are genres in text, there are, different styles, so to speak. The reason I keep on insisting on this, working on ideas, working on content, looking at how you can put it together, going back to the content and using it to express something is because most of the times when you say to students, write a composition, and in fact, what you do is, this is on your hand, that doesn't matter, you don't have, if you give them, for example, a topic, a title, that says, describe a person you admire. Is that enough? Who are they writing for? Are they writing to you? Then change the title accordingly. Describe a person you admire to me. Okay. Something. Generating ideas. So it's very important to set up, again, the writing very carefully. Set this up. Describe a person you admire. Yes, good. Yes, that. Describe a person you admire. Yeah, fine. Help them. Okay. Where is this? Who are they writing for? Is it in a sort of a class journal? Is it a class blog? Are they going to then decide on the people that they all admire? You need to really set that up. Because a lot of the times, what we get in writing, when we give them sort of one quick title, and then, of course, they don't want to write, because describe a person you admire. Oh, who, what, where, who's going to read this, who cares? Okay, yes, the purpose of writing, but also the problem is that you get students, and in quotes, good students, writing things, writing compositions that have the correct grammar, so to speak. They have conjunctions, they have paragraphs, but they say nothing. They have no content. That's a problem, okay? Each book, yes, has different kind of writing for the same unit. Sometimes the writing is just to practice. Other times, when it is the writing section, then it focuses on a particular kind of writing. We write, speak, listen, and read throughout all the material in order to learn. Yes, they need ideas in order to learn, in order to research, in order to just develop the language, develop language competences and skills that we want to develop. But you can't do that if you don't at least check your teacher's guide to make sure you've got your goals right. Because if you try through every page in your book to deal with all the vocabulary in there, with all the grammar in there, with translation, with translating words and so on, you're in trouble. That's not how we're supposed to be working. Okay, guided composition to prepare them for the exam, fine. But they have to have content. They have to understand that they have to say something through what they write. Please have a look at the introduction on the teacher's guide, in the teacher's guide, and have a look at your teacher's note per lesson in the teacher's guide. How they get ideas, you give them time to think, and I don't mean about a long time. I think I just get them together in a group, in a pair, brainstorm for a couple of minutes, make a few notes. If you want to ask them to go home and research on the web and get ideas, fine. So again, you can flip. I understand that some people want to leave and you need to think for a few minutes, yes. For the writing stuff published in the school magazine, absolutely, that's great. Okay. Writing topics now could match more than the writing topics in McGraw. They could match the writing topics in any book, quite honestly. There is no book that is best in that respect. But I think McGraw is okay from that respect. I'll tell you why. Here, it doesn't say do this particular genre or talk about this particular film. They can update, they can decide to do work on something that they're interested in. And this is another strength throughout. No book will be updated to such an extent that it can include everything that is new, okay? But the thing is that in all the topics that you're dealing with through McGraw, you can ask them to update. So if they're showing a car, so this is not the last kind of word in the motor industry, what would you say is the last word? You'll find people, or ask them to go search and come back and say it. But in order to manage your time and manage your material, you need to plan. and get your objectives and goals straight, and that there are objectives and goals very clearly set in your teacher's guide. And whatever you say about time, I'm going to insist and repeat the same thing, because it can be done, it is done, and it is successful. I know you have to finish the book in the specific time, so you can only do as much as you can. Okay? Exam writing skill, well, the idea about exams is that you can test what you have taught, what you have worked on. You can't test things that you haven't worked on. Okay, I'm afraid I will have to stop now because people are in a hurry. Okay, sorry, okay. Again, teacher's guide. I'm not saying that you're going to do it exactly this way, but along at least these lines, so that you get away from translation and trying to do everything through every page. And for God's sake, please do avoid bilingual word lists. Please. They don't help. Not in the long run.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We understand most of you need to leave because we're getting messages, so feel free to leave if you need to. That's absolutely all right. We understand you can only have so much limited time to attend the session, but we're going to stay back here for any Q&As, anything that you need. We've got a lot of questions from you, so thank you for sending us those questions. And I guess we will move on to the Q&As now. Okay, a lot of these probably you've answered, but I've got one that says, can you please guide us to a way how to create an English atmosphere for the students, not only in class, but in their daily life?
Okay, that's a really, it's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, you have to, again, if you know the students, you know they have access to the internet, they can watch films, they can read things, then that's what you do. And what you do is, on a rotating basis, when you know you're going to start, for example, a new text or a new unit, a new theme, get a group of students to research the theme, the topic, and come back with some images, come back with some interesting points to present in class. Okay? So you can involve them that way. So by flipping, you can involve them a lot. Okay?
Thanks. Sorry for bothering you, but can I ask, should we use Arabic to help?
Sorry, may I address that? Don't forget to prepare well for tomorrow's session, says somebody.
Is it for...
I'm sorry, was there a problem? Could you please tell me? Well, you can't make everybody enjoy writing, but at least you can teach them how to write so they can pass exams. Form, meaning, function. Okay, can we please leave that for tomorrow? That's got that's grammar, it's forms. Now that particular section in the unit, is there to make sure that all the points that are mentioned in your official curriculum are covered. There's a lot. Don't try and teach everything. Find out what the students know, because quite a few of those points, and other points in your book, quite honestly, they will be familiar with. This is not in secondary. Remember, this is not the first time they've dealt with the language. Okay? So you need to find out what they know and manage your time accordingly. And if there are people who need help, assign. Yes, you can skip. Assign things for them to do outside of class if you want them to study things that are more mechanical and look at points and check grammar exercises and so on. And also, I'm sorry, yes, I know some people didn't like the way I talked about writing, I understand, but there is quite a bit of writing in your workbook as well. So you have an option, okay? So leave important questions for tomorrow, says somebody. There is. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I'll move on then. This one says, behavioral objectives for the same session differ from one teacher to another due to the absence of them in the teacher's guide. And I believe that this may negatively affect the constructivism across all the books or stages of the series. What do you think?
No. This is not a research project, and we are not doing a SMART analysis. A SMART analysis is very exacting, and you have to identify quite a few things. We are very much now in the domain of applied linguistics, language teaching theory, methodology, and quite honestly, at this point in our profession, in our field, we are fortunately able to combine techniques from different methods so we can identify needs and respond to them as required by individual needs or by group needs and so on and so forth. We're talking about something completely different. What is done throughout the series is quite seamless. It's quite uniform. It's the same principles are shared throughout. Yes, I have stressed some things from my point of view, okay, as a professional, after decades of teaching and training, because I believe in them. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be talking about things that I don't believe in. And that's as much as I can say about that. It's a different discussion altogether. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Someone asked for the handout link for session 4. So that's there. I think I'll also share the ones for the previous session. So we have covered 4 sessions for secondary teachers, and here are the links. You can share these links with your colleagues, absolutely all right. So feel free to share them with your colleagues.
Sorry, can I interrupt, because there was a comment that was spot on and I would like to repeat it about revising, okay, letting students revise what they write. Absolutely. So I didn't really want, I didn't talk about that because more people would say there isn't time. Yes, the best way to go about this is you ask the students to read what they've written and try and revise. Then they exchange with their peers, get some comments, get some corrections, take it back, revise it according to the comments, okay? Some people do this 2 or 3 times, not necessarily in class. Once the main thing has been produced, you don't have to go through all the stages in class. But yes, absolutely. Get them to revise their own writing. Sorry, yes, there is.
Sorry. Yes, this one says, in writing lessons, the first page usually is very time consuming. My question is, how can I benefit from that page without wasting a lot of time and just focus on writing process?
You can't focus on the writing process unless you follow those stages, because you need to gather ideas, you need to think about things, you need to identify the features of the particular genre to write. What I suspect you still want to do is go through every vocabulary item and maybe even translate. Please don't do that. If you do that, no, you won't have the time. And it doesn't work that way. They don't have to write in their minds or practically in Arabic and then translate. For one additional reason, because we need to look at culture as well. And particularly when we talk about writing, you know that there are differences. Okay? No, you don't need to translate every single word. Please And don't use bilingual translated word lists for people to memorize. They'll memorize and forget very quickly, as we all do, forget things that we have to memorize mechanically in school. You know, after a few years, it's all gone. It's not going to help. And not everybody can do it. Okay?
Yep. And I'll just
English to English, sorry. Yes, use English to English dictionary. Help them. Teach them how to use it. It will only take 2 or 3 minutes over 3 or 4 lessons, and encourage them. No, don't translate. Okay.
Okay, I'll just take one last one because we know time is up now. Can writing be in groups?
Yes. I'm particularly keen on that. Personally, I really like doing that. Because what you get is quite amazing at the end. And the students very quickly sort of fall into the roles that they're supposed to satisfy. So we call it the mini publishing, because there are people who are the editors, people who have an eye for sort of things to see, for things that are important, that have to do with the style or the language or whatever. And we even have proofreaders. After everything is finalized, they take the final text and go through it and check for spelling, punctuation, and so on. It's wonderful. You can do amazing things if you work in groups, in collaborative, if you collaborate. In collaborative learning, you can do a lot there, and you can see how much people know, and you listen, which is very important for teachers, and we shouldn't forget. We listen to find out all the things they know, how much they can do, and what they might need more help with.
Yes.
You meant not to answer questions during the presentation, but it's important to answer questions during the presentation. Because I would like to be able to communicate with you. I don't want to just talk at you, and because all these questions are coming up. You can use the mother tongue, you can use native language if you feel it's absolutely necessary, and you can't really sort out whatever difficulty and problem there is through an example or demonstration or a different way in English. Okay? Thank you so much. We wanted this to be interactive, so I'm sorry some of you might not have liked that. I know it can be difficult sometimes to follow, but if you think it's difficult, please can you put yourselves in the presenter's position, but I do believe it's better to interact.
Yeah, because you can answer any questions that you have as well and just follow along. And tonight also tweaks the session depending on, what you need to know and whatnot. So she doesn't have to tell you content that you already know perhaps. And so just making sure you're all following along. So apologies for those people who feel like we are taking too many comments in the section and too many questions picked up from the chat.
Yeah, because we have, when talking about time, as I said, we're trying to really deal with huge areas in very little time. So if you go away with 2 points to think about and change, quite honestly, I'd be quite happy. But the main point, some of the practical points I would like you to please remember is, look at the teacher's guide, use the teacher's guide. I'm not saying that you're going to follow it 100%, but look at the teacher's guide, focus on the main aims of each section, not doing everything in every section. Of course, there's no time for that, and there's no need for that. we will focus on our main aim. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. Not audience, really, such wonderful participants, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Yes, just to echo Danai's word, thank you so much. You have been fantastic and so engaging with the presentation and everything. We hope this was great for you and you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining us today, for your time, for your valuable time. We are having one session tomorrow. I'm just going to repeat because people are asking, they have received only one link for tomorrow. Well, that is because we only have a 10 a.m. session. We don't have a 1 p.m. session, which is why you have just one link. So use the link that you already have in your confirmation email, but you will also receive don't forget to join us email. That's a reminder email tomorrow, 2 hours prior. So you should have this by 8 a.m. And yes, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you tomorrow for session 5 for secondary teachers. Goodbye.
And thank you so much for your lovely comments. Thank you so much. Really, I thank you.